Drill instructors or drill sergeants have read it. What's the funniest thing you've seen a recruiter do that you couldn't laugh at? Story 1. In my basic training class, I was a squad leader, which is essentially just a person who does extra chores. Anyway, for reasons unknown, I and the other squad leaders were doing push-ups in the drill sergeant's office. Now, when you do these push-ups, you'll eventually reach muscle failure, so you sort of just hang there in the front leaning rest and try to bust out another push-up every few seconds or so. We're all dying in there, and the drill sergeant says to one of my buddies, "Private Hudson, tell me what's the difference between basic training and being in prison." Without missing a beat, Private Hudson says, "Drill sergeant, in prison they get to watch TV." The drill sergeant cracked a little bit of a smile and then told us to get up and out of there. Nothing like some extreme physical workout to get your brain frying. Story 2. Boot Camp MCRD San Diego. Had a kid with glasses, very young. Did not look like marine material. He kept glancing up at airplanes overhead during the drill. Drill instructor noticed and asked him what he was looking at. The kid replies, "Airplanes, drill instructor." DI says, "Those planes are trying to invade and only you can stop them. I want to hear your war cry at every plane until it leaves this depot." The remainder of Phase 1 of boot camp consisted of this kid screaming at every plane overhead. Hilarity ensued. Story 3. Had a soldier one time stop doing mountain climbers while we were being smoked as a platoon. Drill sergeant came up and squatted down, yelling in his face why he stopped. Recruit yelled back, "This soldier has made it to the top of the mountain, drill sergeant." Dude just walked away, trying not to break with laughter. Story 4. In Navy boot camp, they call forced physical trainings beatings. Everyone knows what a beating is. The Navy doesn't have drill instructors, they call them RDCs, Recruit Division Commanders. One day, standing in the ranks, the RDC is going around asking random trivia questions about a test we had to take to make sure we had all been studying. He gets to be an eccentric guy, to say the least. This is about a month and a half into boot camp. RDC asks a question. The guy gets it wrong, so RDC yells, "No, wrong, beat yourself." Literally everyone knew this meant to start doing push-ups, so the expectation is he'll start doing push-ups as the RDC moves to the next guy to ask a question. I was standing across from the guy, and he had a confused look on his face. He looked at his own hand for like 5 seconds and then hauled off and slapped himself in the face. It made a loud crack sound. He got himself good. I cracked and chuckled, trying to keep my composure at attention. The RDC looked at me and then realized why I laughed had to do with the slapping sound. He turned back to the self-slapping guy and asked him if he slapped himself. The guy said, "You told me to beat myself." Cue the entire barracks cracking up. It was a single moment during boot camp where the curtain was raised and a moment of unadulterated levity came over everyone. The RDC couldn't stop laughing, so the tough guy asshole persona melted away for a good 60 seconds until he regained composure and made us all do push-ups. The push-ups were an easy price to pay for that moment. Story 5. Never was a drill sergeant, but when I was going through U.S. Army Infantry School in 2004, we were taking showers when one of the drills came in and called us to toe the line. When I got out of the shower, I found that someone had stolen my PT uniform and towel, so I grabbed my shaving cream and covered my cock in cream, then walked out to my bunk. The drill came up to me asking what the fuck I thought I was doing. I told him my clothes and towel were gone, so I did the next best thing. He said, "You know what? You're gonna do alright in the infantry. Modern problems require modern solutions." Story 6. You just reminded me of a breakfast one morning. Navy boot camp. I had made myself a deviled egg using hard-boiled, a packet of mayo, and one of mustard. A petty officer walked by and saw it on my tray and froze. "Recruit, what the hell is that?" "It's a deviled egg." "And where the hell did you get a deviled egg?" "I made it." "God damn it, recruit, that's the best frickin' idea I've ever seen. Carry on." "Yes." I'd been so terrified that I was gonna get in trouble for it for some reason. Just imagine if you'd had paprika, you would have been a legend. Story 7. I was a super light sleeper during basic training. One night I woke up for no reason. The sleeping bay was dark except for the light by the desk where the 2 soldiers on fire guard were supposed to be awake and alert. Both of them were leaning back in their chairs, dead asleep. I started to throw my covers off to go wake them up. If a drill sergeant came through and caught the fire guard sleeping, we would all pay. But then I heard a slow scraping sound to my right, off in the darkness. I froze and I heard it again. Closer. A few heartbeats later, and I almost screamed out as I saw the sharp, intense face of our Samoan drill instructor in the darkness. His face was covered in full camo and he was low crawling underneath the line of the bunk bed toward the fire guard. He had a bayonet between his teeth. We locked eyes and he silently raised one finger to his mouth, signaling for silence. I nodded and sat back to watch the show as the drill sergeant resumed his low crawl under and past my bunk in the direction of the sleeping guards. I have a bunch of stories of funny crap I did to correct soldiers when I later became an NCO, non-commissioned officer, but that image is like something straight out of an 80s war movie. It will always stick with me. What? You didn't finish the story. How did it end? Story 8. So when you start your basic, your body doesn't know how to handle no sugar, caffeine, rigorous exercise, and sleep schedules, so it's in shock. With this shock, shitting became a problem for a few. Well, every drill instructor after the first week is required to ask if anyone has taken a shit. And from there, he assigns one recruit to track who has crapped and who has not. I shit you not, pun intended. We had one guy who would stand in the barracks at the end of each night, rolling off names of people who hadn't shit yet. Finally, we gave one guy who was still on there after 2 weeks, and the DI tells him to go to the doctor. The doctor gives him a get-out-of-jail-free card, essentially saying that at any point he may use the magical words, "I gotta shit," and he can escape any situation. Well, the recruit who can't shit gets the smart idea that he's gonna play his new trump card as long as possible. Every time that we're getting grilled, "I gotta take a shit" comes ringing in from the back of the formation. This probably happened 6 times until our drill instructor caught on. Finally, our drill instructor devises a plan that when the recruit who can't shit goes into the bathroom, he's gonna have a couple of us hold onto his legs and slide him into the stall all Exorcist style. The time comes and the recruit that can't shit excuses himself. We all follow our drill instructor into the bathroom and slid him under there like he's the spawn of Satan. This catches the recruit who can't shit by surprise. He doesn't know what the fuck is going on as the drill instructor is utterly berating him about lying and using this as an excuse to sit on the toilet. We hear a very audible "oh shit" from the stall. The drill instructor scared the recruit so much that he actually took a shit right then and there. The DI made every recruit look at it and we played taps for it as we flushed it down the toilet. Story 9. Just got off the trail a few months ago. The biggest standout for me was conducting a urinalysis, UA. We have a set of things we tell the soldiers to do. Wash your hands without soap, open the cup, place it on the urinal. At that point, I usually say, "Situate yourself and I think you can take the rest from there." This kid at that point tried to climb onto the top of the urinal to fill the cup still placed on top of it. I had to yell at him to stop and tell him to pick up the cup to urinate in it. I almost had to walk out because I was gonna lose it. In the probably 1,000 UAs that I had to be there for, I'd never seen a kid climb the urinal before. Thought of some more to add. One of the soldiers somehow got a forest ranger hat, which looks pretty close to a drill sergeant campaign hat. He then started raiding the soldiers' rooms with the soldiers in them while his buddy recorded them on his phone. This is advanced individual training, so they have phones in semi-private 3-man rooms. We ended up finding the videos uploaded on Facebook and figured out who it was and who took the hat and disciplined him. However, the videos were funny as hell and his impressions of some of us were pretty spot on. And now for a fun thing I used to do to mess with them. So I was a drill sergeant in Advanced Individual Training AIT for the Army. In AIT, they have a bit more freedom and they can have certain things in their room. One of the things they like getting and usually hide in the locker would be a Google Mini or an Echo Dot. When doing room inspections of soldiers that had a shit room, I'd randomly say things like, "Okay Google, set an alarm for 1 a.m." or "Alexa, play Katy Perry at 2 a.m." I'd have super confused soldiers in the morning of physical training wondering why they had random alarms going off all night. Story 10. Not me, but I had a great team sergeant who had a floater, wonky eye that he was blind in from an injury in Iraq. So one eye was dead on and worked perfectly fine, but he had this other one Uncle Ruckus eye that just did its own thing. He was a very physically imposing man with that classic drill sergeant bass-filled voice, and his crazy eye just added to it and he knew it. He told the story about his one time as a drill SGT when 2 privates had sat down on fire watch and were kinda just being really lackadaisical about their duties when he found them. So he starts just giving them the business classic full metal jacket style, and finally he just ends his rant right when he's about to smoke them for who knows how long, when one of the privates just says, "Drill Sergeant, are you yelling at us or the water fountain?" It stopped him dead in his rage and he just walked away mid-knife hand. That could have gone very, very badly, a risky move that paid off. Story 11. Early in the boot in MCRD San Diego, we were post-shower and at attention for the hygiene inspection, wearing nothing but skivvies and t-shirts. The DI is walking the line, checking fingernails and whatnot, when one private's hard-on flops out of his skivvies right there as the DI passes him. The DI stops, looks at the private in the eye, and says, "Private, I don't even like you. Much less like you that way. Now put that god thing away before it goes off." The private in question turned purple with embarrassment and tries to stuff his boner back in his skivvies, but is getting flustered as the DI starts yelling at him for being an incompetent private, and that if he didn't get it stowed in 3 seconds, the private would be taking a 10-minute cold shower. Things like, "Do I have to hose you down like an excited chihuahua? Should I call the vet? Good God, private, is that how you greet your mother at night? Stow your gear, goddammit!" Every other private in line was trying not to laugh as the second drill instructor had retreated to his office where we could hear him howling with laughter. The private finally gets his junk stowed and the DI resumes inspection, and you could see he was trying his damnedest not to bust out laughing. No one got much sleep that night. There were too many gigglers in their bunks and too many quiet one-liners. Story 12. 4 years ago. We had this kid who kept pissing himself. One day after the range, he informs our DI that he had shit himself right after the showers. Squad base starts to hold back laughter. DI, "It's not funny!" Awkward silence. DI, "Okay, it's a little funny, but we aren't laughing." The man never cracked a smile during the whole thing. Story 13. A buddy of mine told the story when he was at basic. One guy had said "yes ma'am" to the female DI earlier in the day, so when they were all lined up, he was going down the line asking each person if they called her ma'am earlier. The guy who did was fourth in line, heard the 3 previous guys say "no, drill sergeant," and then in all seriousness, "no ma'am." Story 14. My favorite basic story, Fort Benning, 1988, was during a locker inspection. The most steely-eyed, straight-laced drill sergeant we had was going through our stuff looking for contraband. He is asking random questions at the time, very professional and serious. Then he goes at a guy a few lockers down from me and asks if he has any naked pictures of his girlfriend. Recruit yells, "No, drill sergeant." Drill sergeant looks at him dead in the eye and asks, "Do you want to buy some?" A bunch of us started cracking up and had to push. Damn, there's no way you could escape laughing at that. Story 15. Not a drill sergeant, but when I was in basic, I saw 3 drill sergeants surrounding a private who was laying down. They were all screaming, "Go the f*** to sleep right now, private. You take a goddamn nap this very second, you poor tired soul." Not exact words, but you get the gist of it. I still wonder how he got himself into that predicament. Caught sleeping, can guarantee, better than chanting "stay awake, stay alive" for a couple of hours. Story 16. On day 2 of basic training in Lackland Air Force Base, my flight was returning with our newly issued gear after having our heads shaved, and others hurry up and wait for their task. Our new training instructor told us to go upstairs and stand attention by our beds. We ran up there tired after attempting to march for what felt like 2 hours each way in the August Texas heat. We're all standing there waiting for whatever's going to happen next. After about 5 minutes, Donnie Barnes says, "That Sergeant Gates is an asshole, am I right?" As soon as Barnes said Gates, the locker directly behind Barnes opened up with a creak. Barnes is frozen solid. Out of the locker pops one leg after another, and 3 taps as Sergeant Gates walks out of the locker and puts his mouth directly next to Barnes' ear and shouts in his gravelly voice, "On your face!" We did so many push-ups. And yeah, I just felt like yelling there. Story 17. One recruit left his training guide just lying on his rack. My lead recruit division commander decided this was punishable by making the recruit stand in the middle of our berthing, hold the training guide in the left hand, salute it with the right hand, and bring it in gently and whisper, "I love you, training guide. I'm sorry I left you. I'll never leave you lying around again." That shit was hilarious, especially because we were all put at attention while he did it for 45 minutes. Story 18. Not a drill sergeant, but went to Army Basic. I was in the chow line, nut to butt, looking at the back of the guy's head in front of me. All of a sudden, I can feel one of my drill sergeants breathing on me over the separation walls, and he yells, "Shia LaBeouf, who is your daddy?" To which I responded, "You are, drill sergeant." My other drill sergeant sprints over and says, "Oh yeah, then what does that make me then?" And all I thought to say was, "My mommy, drill sergeant?" Every drill sergeant in the chow hall was dying, and I got the dog shit smoked out of me outside. Edit. I have plenty more stories either equally funny or possibly even funnier. When I was in advanced individual training to be a medic at Fort San, we had to toe in line for bed check, standing on a yellow line by your bunk in PT/shower shoes holding your ID card with your tags hanging out. We used to f*** with each other hard in our bay, and right before our toe line, one of my buddies hid one of my shower shoes. So I'm in a rush thinking, fuck, okay, I'll just wear one. So I'm standing at half attention in one flip-flop and my bare foot is just kinda tucked away behind me. Our cadre for check comes and just looks directly down at my feet, crosses his arms and says, "Shilaboof, what in Sam f*** are you doing?" All I could get out to say was, "Sergeant, I could not find my other shower shoe for bed check." And I think he'd been saving this one because he started to smirk and just yelled, "God damn it, Shia LaBeouf, you are more ate up than a chocolate dick in a gay bar," triggering giggles and snickers throughout the bay. Story 19. I'll never forget this one. When a recruiter would bust ass, we would make them turn on the vacuum cleaner. This meant we would yell, "Who the f*** just shit themselves? This recruit is attempting to attack our olfactory sense. Platoon, turn on the vacuum." Which would be followed by, "Turn on the vacuum, aye sir." And then all the recruits would suck in through their mouth as hard as they could. However, one time we had a recruit who immediately answered when we asked who shit themselves, that "This recruit shit himself, sir." Turns out Recruit Jones shit himself during late-night drill session in 3rd phase. By then, recruits are disciplined and almost always put on the mission first, even if that mission is executing left-face march without asking to go to head. Poor kid sat in his own shit for almost 2 hours. Story 20. Not a DI, but when I went through basics, they gave everyone a flashlight with a lime green yellow thing on the bright end that you had to have with you in the morning for PT. Well, one individual forgot his, and when we all lined up in the morning, he didn't say anything until we all walked over to the PT pad. The DI began to berate him and tell him that he is a dumbass and run back to the bunks to retrieve a flashlight. Before he leaves, the TI yells, "If anyone stops you, just tell them you're a dumbass." Well, a TI was crossing the street and saw him running back to the bunks, and saw the trainee all by himself, so he started laying into him. We could all hear him on the PT pad until the trainee got a chance to respond with, "Sir, trainee so-and-so reports as ordered. I am a dumbass." And the TI walks away and didn't say anything. I have another story about these exact airmen. Near the end of basic training, depending on who your DI is, you might get what is called an amnesty hour. It's everyone who's been in basic with you and your DI basically talking to you like a normal person again. Well, our DI opened the floor for questions, and the first kid to raise his hand was the kid who forgot his Lackland laser. During all of basic when I was there, a rumor was going around that a DI had been posed for Playboy. Now, it was a rumor, but no one could go on a computer to Google it because it's basic military training. The airman stood up and asked straight-face, "Sir, is it true that a DI posed for Playboy?" Our DI laughed and confirmed the rumor. And again, "Sir, did you meet this DI?" Our DI responded with, "No, but if I did, I would be tapping that." Without missing a beat, this short, skinny kid from Tennessee says, "Thank you for not hitting it so the rest of us don't fall in it." I cried laughing. Story 21. A pair of battle buddies were late to the formation. Everyone was lined up waiting for them to get dressed, but they ran down about 3 seconds apart from each other, which was a big mistake. The first one runs out, drill sergeant screams, "Freeze, motherfucker! Aren't you supposed to have someone with you?" And without skipping a beat, the private replies, "The force is always with me, drill sergeant." After thinking about it for a sec, he told the private to shut up and fall in line. His buddy, meanwhile, had made his way outside and was trying to poorly sneak into line. Drill sergeant sees the private sneaking. "Well, now hold on a second. Who's this fucking big shot over here walking around like he owns the place? Do you have your new top? You think you're special? Private. No, drill sergeant, I'm the force. Everyone, including the lead drill, lost their fucking shit for 2 seconds. See, this right here is genius. You know they had that planned out in advance, just in case. Story 22. Not a drill instructor, but when I was going through basic, it was one trainee's birthday when we went to the gas chamber for an experience of the crowd control gas. This trainee happened to be Jewish, so the first thing in the morning when we had this little huddle about what's going to happen that day, the DI asks if there are any questions. Trainee Goldberg, that's not his real name, but this dude was built like Goldberg, raised his hand and says, "Sir, don't you think it's a little f***ed up to send a Jew to the gas chambers on his birthday?" Everyone busted up laughing, including our DI, but the story doesn't end there. We go to the dining facility for breakfast, and as he's going through the line, our DI yells, "Trainee Goldberg, why don't you tell the other DIs what you told me this morning?" With a straight face, Trainee Goldberg says, "Oh, I was just telling our DI how it's pretty fucked up that the Air Force is sending Jews to the gas chamber on his birthday." All the DIs at the long table just fell silent, almost scared, and our DI just busted up laughing so hard that all the trainees stopped. Trainee Goldberg, despite being 6'2" with solid muscles, was perhaps the funniest guy in our flight. He owns a few gyms now in his home state. Awesome guy.